This week on The Bachelorette.
I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I am in love with you.
I'm not there yet. Giving and giving and giving, and I'm withering away.
Am I doing something wrong?
Can't do it anymore.
Yo, what is up, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the new episode of The Bachelorette, Season 21, Episode 8. This was a crazy episode, so let's get right into it, you guys. Alright, so we begin this 8th week on the beautiful island of Hawaii. That's one of the great parts about the Bachelor franchise, seeing all these different places on Earth. So this is Fantasy Suites, you guys, and it's where Jen will, or I should say might, get engaged as well in Hawaii. So these are the final three are Marcus, Devin, and Jonathan. It's crazy to think that we're down to 3 guys. So the episode begins with Jen meeting up with Molly. My first question was, who is Molly? But I remembered quickly that she's from The Bachelor Season 13. She was the same lady that was at the radio station a few episodes ago when they had that group date. Remember Sam was being all weird? Yeah, that's her. Well, I was reminded too that Molly is still with her man who she met on the show. So she's giving Jen some advice about fantasy suites and how to utilize this very intimate time. Jen says she feels very secure that she will get engaged with one of these men. Molly asks who are the final 3, and once Jen tells her, Molly says that her and her husband talked after the radio date, and they came to an agreement that Jonathan seemed to be the one that was most connected with Jen and who truly liked her the most, just based on what they saw. And Jen says she really likes Jonathan, but he can get in his head a little bit. Then with Marcus, Jen says she feels like she puts more into the relationship than he does, so she's going to need him to step it up this week. Then with Devin, she really has no complaints about him. She says that he's great, and he told her that he loved her last week. She says that she isn't totally there yet, but she does think that she can get there. Jen says that with Devin, she might get in the way, like she might get in her own way by thinking he's too good to be true. Molly says, don't get in your head, soak in all the emotions, and just be free. Jen says that every single one of the conversations and chats this week will be make it or break it. So we get going with the first one, which is Devin. Devin is going into this a little apprehensive because, like I said, he did put it all on the table last week. He said that he loved her, and it hasn't really been reciprocated yet, but we're gonna have to wait and see if he gets that. So they get together, and y'all can already guess what they do. Get on a helicopter. Typical. I'm gonna need something new, but it's a great place to discover on a helicopter, so I'll give that to them. They land then in the middle of this huge waterfall. They were doing a lot of kissing, so there's that for sure. But then they jumped back onto the helicopter a few seconds. I was like, huh? Then they sit by the water. Jen says that she really enjoyed meeting his family. He says he is very, like, over the moon. He likes her so much, and he can't wait to be with her and just do normal stuff, like go to the movies or go to restaurants, just live his life with her. He wants to get back to work, and he's also very clear that he is ready mentally prepared to get engaged, which is the end goal of this whole thing. They say that they have gotten so close in such a short amount of time, and Jen's like, yeah, that's crazy. It doesn't make sense sometimes. And Devin says, well, it makes sense to me. That's why I told you I loved you the other day. Jen says, do you still feel that way? And he's like, yeah, I know, and I know why I love you. It's because you make me feel secure in a way that I've never felt before. She says that she's very excited to hear that. It's sometimes hard for her to accept a good thing, but she knows he's a good thing. Sometimes she isn't able, yeah, that's what she said, that she isn't able to recognize a good thing. And she wants him to know that she's on her way there. And he says, okay, I'll be waiting for you there. Like, you're worth it. Obviously, he wanted to hear it back, and I get that. But I'm actually glad. Part of me is glad that she isn't throwing it around. She isn't throwing the L word too loosely, as some other people have on this franchise before. So it is then a little later, and they have this super romantic Hawaiian date set up. So they sit down. Devin says that it's been a long journey. He misses his friends and family, but Jen makes it worth it for him. Because it's been clear in a way that it hasn't before. Devin then says, "Can I ask you something? What did you mean earlier today when you said that sometimes you can't recognize a good thing?" So she says, "Yeah, this whole self-sabotage because of previous relationships and expectations that those bring out of me." But she says that this is a different, in a good way. So again, it must be too good to be true. So basically, she's had a lot of bad experiences and she feels like they're all going to be like that. Damn, she might have thought about going to therapy before doing the show, if that's the case. But he says that he feels so strongly about her, and that's why he is comfortable telling her that he loves her, even though he might not hear it back. It was a little awkward because she knows that he's expecting her to tell him she loves him back. So she's just asking all these other questions, kind of feels like they're going in circles. Jenn keeps saying, "You mean a lot to me. You're such a great communicator. You mean so much to me." But I think at this point, he don't want to hear none of that. He wants to hear, "I love you." And he also reiterated that he is ready for an engagement. They then opened the card, which invited them to the lover's room, the fantasy suite, and they accept. Devin's excited to have quality time off camera, so then they go. And then we see them wake up the next morning. It felt a little too personal seeing them wake up. Okay, and then Jenn said something about him being better than Pete Davidson in a lot of ways. Okay. They eat their breakfast. Jenn says that last night made her feel more confident, so that should make him feel a little better. He keeps saying, "I love you," but he ain't hearing it back, so it's driving him nuts. So Jenn then gets on going to pick up her other boyfriend, Jonathan. So she drives and is taking him to a surprise. They go get some fried donuts, which it was killing him to eat because he takes care of himself, and I get that. There's certain times when I'm really on the grind that you can pay me to eat a carb. But moments like this, what are you gonna do? It's worth it. Then they just do little simple things like walking around to other shops, and then they go to have like a little picnic by a waterfall, and they start talking. I'm gonna be totally honest. The conversation between these two makes me close my eyes and want to fall asleep. But they seem happy, and Jonathan did seem to be a little out of his head and more confident. And then they kiss and get into the waterfall to swim. So then let's get to the night portion of the day. Jenn says that she feels like they had a lot of fun, and they talk about the hometowns they had last week. Jonathan says that he felt like Jenn was super confident meeting his family, and Jenn says that's interesting because she then opens up because she says that when she was a kid, she wasn't really all that confident. Her parents were immigrants, and she grew up in a place where she would kind of be ashamed of her culture. She grew up in a predominantly white place, and she felt like she had to hide her identity, and she just felt like a different person. And I could totally relate to that. Not in the sense that I've ever felt embarrassed or tried to hide my culture, but I do know what it's like to be in a place where you are ethnically different. I understand that. And then Jonathan gave a great response about embracing the different parts of himself because he is mixed race. And he says that if they had kids, he would make sure that they would embrace the half Vietnamese side, the quarter black side, the quarter whites, all of that. And I did notice that in this conversation, Jonathan seemed like his eyes were definitely glowing and he seemed super happy to be there. And it almost felt like you could see him falling in love with her. So then they get the fantasy card and they get on going. And then we see them in the morning again. Feels a little too much. It was funny though because she said, "Never did I think I'd be in bed with the mummy man from night one." He seemed very happy. But if I'm going to be honest, I saw her a little bit more happier with Devin the morning of than in this one. But anyway, speaking of Devin, we see him and he's freaking out. He's still in his head of feeling like an option, not the choice, which is really something I would never want to feel. No one wants to feel that. Everybody wants to feel like they're number one, not an option. But I mean, this is the premise of the show. So Devin, I would say you gotta hang in there, bud, just a little bit. Like, this is what the show is. So then we see this scene that I don't want to call it odd, but I'll call it interesting. It's Jesse and Marcus, and Jesse is telling him that he needs to be proud of himself because he has overcome a bunch of obstacles and that he deserves to be happy. And Marcus isn't 100% sure about Jenn, and to be honest, that has been apparent for a while. With the exception of Devin now, it looks like Jen has been way more into the guys than the guys have been into her. But this is crazy, you guys, because Jen said that she's in love with Marcus and she's getting ready to tell him that in the date. Whoa. So they meet up, they get on a boat, they make out a lot. She likes to make out, and then they chit chat a little bit. Jen tells him that her feelings with him really grew after hometowns. She was so into this date. Then they go underwater once the sun had set, and they went to go swim with some manta rays. So they had a lot of fun. Then it's time for the night portion, and oh my gosh, hang in there, guys. Okay, because this was a lot. So he says that the date made him really happy, but right now he feels nervous. He says that last week, when his name was the last one called in the rose ceremony, it made him realize that maybe couldn't it wouldn't be him at the end of this, and that this would all have been for nothing. So he definitely says that he got into his head. Then he starts to do this word salad about the childhood, his goals to be a father, and he's never met anyone like Jen. But listen, I get it, because he comes from a broken family and he didn't have a normal childhood, and he then says he only wants to be engaged once, only ask once. Which, by the way, this is another one who needs to do extensive therapy before he gets married or has kids. But all the word salad, I guess, was just him buttering her up to eventually say that he's not really that sure about them. I was like, dude, just say it. He says that this process is approaching, and again, going in circles and circles and circles. Yeah, it's been hard to for him to be at this point, but he says that he's not comfortable to say that he loves her. And you could see Jen's face just completely change. That completely ruined her parade. She's speechless. He says, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, you don't need to apologize. Like, you're following your heart. But she looked devastated. But then she says, I would be lying if I didn't tell you I am in love with you. Whoa. She says, you make me comfortable. You make me feel like myself. And I felt like I needed to say this to you. I feel like I really needed to say how I truly felt and get it off my chest. Then he starts to cry, and then a hush fell over Hawaii. It was so awkward. He says, I've been trying. And she says, I know, but I want you to feel confident in whatever you're feeling. He says, well, you make me feel amazing. But I'm like, what is going to happen? So my theory is this. He was getting ready to get the hell out of there. But once she told him that she loved him, it changed his mind. Because all of a sudden he's like, well, I wouldn't be here if I couldn't see something with you. Like, really, dude? But anyway, she then gets the card offer sent to him, and he accepts because he says that they will have some extremely beneficial time that they need. So they get going, and then it's the next morning, and he says that the night before helped him a lot on the doubts that he was having. Okay, she then leaves. So that's all for the overnights. That's a wrap. Then we see Devin again. And he's still in his head, and then he asks Jesse to come over because he needs some guidance. Devin says that he felt very excited for his overnight day. He was really wanting to hear the love back that he already declared. Deep down, though, what he wanted to do was ask her, do you love me as much as I love you? But he didn't ask her that. Jesse says, well, did you feel like she might have loved you back just like what you felt? And Devin says, I don't know. I said to her that I loved her so many times, waiting for her to say it back, but nothing. Damn, poor guy. He starts to get emotional. He says, if I truly make her feel some type of way, then why can't I feel it? I want to be loved. I want to feel wanted. And that's all a man really wants to feel. A man wants to feel loved and wanted. He says, I don't feel like I'm the one. I feel like I'm one of the many. There's this thing that he wanted to... So many things he wanted to say to Jen so that he can get clarity. But he didn't. So after this, Devin goes to Jen's room to see her. He knocks on the door and he's ready to be brutally honest. She opens the door and says, hey. And then it ends there. Ooh, you guys, this was a lot. Okay, so a few things. Devin is doing too much. Marcus is doing too little. Jonathan's doing just right. But I don't understand. I've noticed Jen really, really likes Marcus, but I'm curious, what does she like about him? Not like, what does she love? Because apparently she loves him. She's in love with him. I don't really get that. How are you so in love with someone who has shown you nothing? He's never said he's in love with you. He's very closed off during the dates. What does she feel towards him? I want to know. But you guys want to know something that kind of became clear to me after this episode? No shade to Jen. She wasn't ready to be no damn bachelorette. She really wasn't, and I'm starting to understand why she was the third option. She seems very emotionally immature, and it feels like she doesn't know what the hell she wants. Um, it's a lot. But anyway, you guys, they're gonna have a special tomorrow night, which is the Men Tell All, and we're definitely gonna be here to talk about it. But let me know, what did you make out of this crazy fantasy suite week? So please let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. You have a great one. Bye.